This is Eleanor. Eleanor is currently a graduate student working to earn her principal license, and she's about to embark on the Massachusetts PAL Task 3, which focuses on leadership in observing, assessing, and supporting individual teacher effectiveness. I'm Professor H. I'm an instructor in the Administrative Licensure Program, and I'm Eleanor's advisor. Eleanor scheduled an appointment with me to clarify some of the questions that she has about Task 3. So listen in.
Well, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I wanted to make sure that I understood everything before I got started. So my understanding is that for Task 3, I select a priority area to focus on, and then I choose a teacher, I visit some classes, I set up an pre-observation meeting with the teacher, and I come to the classroom to observe, and I set up another meeting for the post-observation meeting with the teacher, during which I give feedback about her teaching. Is that about right?
Yep, you're correct. But it might be helpful to think about this in terms of the leadership assumptions of Task 3 and the leadership skills that you're demonstrating. So one way for school leaders to improve the quality of teaching in a school is to provide individual teacher feedback and guidance. This requires leaders to know and be able to observe quality teaching and to help individual teachers understand what areas they need to improve and how. So this task enables you to demonstrate your knowledge and skills in doing just this. So think of the activities that you mentioned as a cycle. Don't think of them as a set of discrete steps. So the activities, they build on each other, right? So you're not doing a formal teacher evaluation. Instead, you're observing a teacher in his or her classroom and providing feedback centered around one priority academic area. It can be the same priority area that you chose for tasks 1 and 2, or it could be a new one. It should be based on a review of student performance data and other indicators, as well as input from you and the teacher who you plan to observe. So for example, if you both want to focus on developing students' writing skills, you want to review the school data on where students' strengths and areas for improvement are, and then talk with the teacher about what skills that he or she might have and help her develop her own questions and how she's doing this, and then we'll see what the unit plans are and the lesson plans are for this. But before you get started, you're going to need to find out some things about observing teachers.
Okay.
So first you're going to find out the district's system for teacher evaluation based on the state standards and indicators for effective teaching practice and any other requirements that the district has. Second, you need to look into the policies pertaining to observing and videotaping teachers in their classes, because you're going to need to arrange for some informed consent. So let's use a focus example on developing students' writing skills. You'll also want to put your focus into content and be informed about how other teachers in the school approach the teaching of writing to help their students improve. So you do this before you meet with the teacher you're going to be observing, so you know what typical practice is and where outstanding practice may be. Next, you're going to have a pre-observation meeting with the teacher. Before you actually go into the classroom to observe this teacher, you're going to want to sit down with her and ask about the plans to teach writing and lesson objectives. You might want to learn more about the students and which ones might be struggling and why. So during this meeting, ask the teacher to self-assess the teaching practice. Say, what are your strengths and weaknesses and where would you like to improve? You might even want to reference the district's teacher observation rubric for this. Talk through student performance indicators together and make some connections to the lesson plan. This is also an opportunity for you to provide feedback to improve the lesson and to learn what else that the teacher wants you to learn. Then you're going to go to the classroom and observe the lesson. Keep good notes and detail key attributions of what you see the teacher doing and what the students are doing. Now after this, you're going to need to analyze what you observe and identify strengths and areas for improvement. You'll need to select where the teacher might start first and generate some ideas for what she might do to improve teaching in those areas. Then, meet together for a post-observation conference. This is going to be a learning opportunity for the teacher, so take steps to engage her as a learner about her practice and give constructive feedback to help her think about ways to improve her practice.
Would you have any suggestion on how I should select a student priority academic area to focus on?
Well, the priority academic area should be based on student learning indicators and other relevant indicators, as well as your school or district's priorities that are related to strengthening curriculum or instruction to improve student learning. You and the teacher should agree on this priority. It should be something that you're interested in and something that the teacher is interested in. So I would suggest that first you should check with the school or district to gather information on student performance or other needs that they might be working on. Is there something specific you're thinking about?
Well, I just recently completed task 2. So can I focus on this area that I used to complete the task, since that's an area of concern for the school, where I'll be doing my observation in?
Sure, so long as the teacher agrees. Remember, you're going to tie in all of the activities into this particular priority area.
Can I work with one of the teachers that I work with for task 2?
Definitely. Actually, that might be a good idea. You can follow up with her and provide her some feedback related to something new that she might be working on. But if you choose to work with a different teacher, that's okay too.
So I have another question. I'm still not clear on why I need to visit other classes before I meet with the teacher I'll be observing. What exactly should I do in those classes again?
So essentially, these are brief classroom visits for you to gather information on what other teachers are doing in their classrooms with regards to the priority area and with regard to the main teacher you've selected. So you want to make sure that you visit classrooms that are in the same subject area and grade level as the class you're going to be observing. Let's say the priority area is writing and you plan to observe a 3rd grade classroom. You want to see how the teachers provide instruction in the content area. Note the types of writing assignments and the learning activities in class. You'll use all this information in comparison to your observed teacher's practice and in providing feedback. Again, the aim of all of this is to improve learning in the priority area. So gather all of the information that you need that can be useful to help the individual teacher.
Well, this next question is really a 2-part question. The first part is, do I need to obtain a formal agreement from the teacher in order to for her to participate in this one? And the second is that I read in the candidate assessment handbook that I will need to videotape the lesson. Tell me more about what I need to do to get permission to do this, please.
Well, you need to check with the school or the district for their policy on observing and videotaping teachers in classrooms. Different schools and districts have their own set of guidelines that you need to follow. They may also have their own informed consent forms for the adults and students in the school to sign, and if they do, then you should use their forms. In the case that they don't, you can find model consent forms in the Candidates Assessment Handbook. The forms in the handbook include a request to videotape the lessons. You need to provide all the adults and students in the class you'll be observing with these forms. Make sure to obtain permission from everyone who may potentially appear in the video. The Candidate Assessment Handbook contains detailed guidelines about videotaping the classroom observations and the post-observation conference. You want to review these guidelines carefully before you proceed.
What if the school does not allow me to videotape the lessons?
The video of the lesson is an important component of the task. If you encounter challenges, let me know what the objections are. We can explore solutions. If you can't get permission, then I'm going to have to help you access another school. Most schools generally provide permission once they understand that you're going to be handling the video with confidentiality and you're only going to be using it for your own assessment purposes and not to evaluate the teacher.
And what do I do if there are students who do not agree to be in the video?
Well, if they or their parents or guardians sign the consent form, that means that they agree for the children to be in the video. But for the parents who don't give consent, you have to make sure those children don't appear in the video. So they should sit outside the camera range when you're videotaping.
So I'm a little curious, who will see this video exactly?
You're going to submit 2 videos, one of the lesson and one of the post-observation meeting. The only people that can see these videos are you and the people who have authorization for the purpose of scoring your performance. No one else is going to have access to what you post in the show evidence system. You can't publicly share or post the videos either, nor can you use them for other purposes. So again, talk to the school and the district about their policy and procedures related to observing and videotaping a classroom. Get a written permission from everyone who might appear in the video, and remember, these videos are confidential.
So how many classroom observations do I need to do with the main teacher?
It's suggested that you observe and videotape at least 2 lessons so that you have one 15-minute segment that's relevant to your focus and analysis of effective teaching. If you take more than 15 minutes worth of video, you're going to need to edit it so that you get 15 minutes of a continuous segment. So make sure the segment includes important parts of the observation. The video needs to be continuous. You can't include fragmented scenes.
Okay. Another question that I have is, I wonder what criteria I should use to evaluate the teacher I observe.
You're going to want to check with the school or the district if they have observation protocols or the rubric that they'll use for teacher evaluation. If they do, you can use those. If your school doesn't have the tools appropriate for the task, then look at the teacher rubric in the Massachusetts Model System Educator Evaluation. Remember, you want to observe a specific area of work that relates to the priority area, so you're not assessing all the indicators. This isn't a formal observation for evaluation purposes.
And what is the purpose of the post-observation meeting with the teacher? Exactly.
Well, the purpose of the post-observation meeting is to engage the teacher in a learning conversation so that you can help, so that teacher can then help her students succeed in the selected priority area. So you want to provide constructive feedback, and you want to make sure that the feedback is supported by evidence that you gather before and during the observation. The conversation in this post-observation video should reflect the content of the classroom observation video. You may want to help the teacher analyze her own performance and discuss with her ways that she can improve the school context. You might want to tailor the discussion to fit ways to improve her teacher practice, the teacher-specific needs of the students in the class. Don't forget to videotape the meeting and submit a maximum of 15 minutes of continuous video from the meeting. So plan your time well, so to make sure that you capture all of the essential elements for a productive post-observation meeting.
So I have one last question. What should I include in the assessment of my own leadership skill?
Oh, you're referring to the commentary section?
Yep.
So this is your chance to reflect on the whole experience and what you learned as a developing leader. What leadership lessons did you learn from the experience? You want to include specific examples of what worked and didn't for you. Explain what was most challenging for you in observing the teacher and providing feedback and what you would do differently in the future. The other ways that your leadership skills are assessed are through the scorer's use of rubrics as they evaluate your work product submissions for this task. This includes the 2 videotapes and 2 written analyses. One is a 2-page memo of the observed teaching, and the other is an analysis of the post-observation meeting and the teacher's feedback on your work in the pre-observation, observation, and post-observation meeting steps. The rubrics are at the end of the section for Task 3 in the handbook. Make sure to read those rubrics so that you have a better idea about the expectations for the quality of your work. If you see here, each rubric has 4 different levels of performance and 1 or 2 indicators. Use the description or criteria for each level to guide you in completing this task. For example, according to rubric 3A, if you don't provide any evidence that you analyzed common instructional practices, or you don't demonstrate that you considered the needs of the students and teachers in selecting the priority area, the scorer most likely will rate you as having beginning level of performance. If you want to be rated as meeting expectations in this requirement, you must be able to provide evidence that you analyzed common practices and identified the needs of the students and teacher, and then use this information in selecting the focus of the observation. I recommend that you focus on the descriptions for exceeding performance on this rubric as a goal for your performance. I hope this helps you getting started with Task 3.
It does a lot. Thank you so much again for your time. I will check back with you as I work on this task.